Hey everyone, welcome to Good Knits. I'm Sherry, and you might have noticed I've been gone for quite a while. So I think I recorded my last video in April. It is now July, and truth be told, I haven't been doing a lot of knitting, so I didn't record because I didn't have a lot to share. I have had quite a hell of a year, just a lot going on that I'm not going to get into in this channel. But you might be able to tell I've got something moving back here. This is Ollie, and this is my brand new British short hair kitten. So I just got him a month ago. He's 16 weeks old, and you are probably going to be seeing him as my co-host quite a lot on this channel here if I record a bit more, because he really loves getting into my knitting, and we're going to see how this goes. I'm a little bit scared he's going to destroy everything in the process of this. So yes, this is my new friend. I love him so much. We actually just had a little bit of a scare. I thought I lost him in the apartment, and then I heard his little meowing and realized that he got locked into a cabinet that I've childproofed, where my blocking mats are stored. He is a little ninja, and he just manages to get into everything. So I have tried to kitten proof as much as possible. It's basically impossible to kitten proof. They have no fear, and they will just put themselves in dangerous situations. So yeah, he got locked in the cabinet and then got under my feet right after that and accidentally got stepped on. He's a little ball of chaos. Since it's been a long time, I don't know if I'm really going to call this a podcast episode. I think I'm just going to randomly chat about what I've been doing, some stuff that I finished, my thoughts on stuff. Like I said, I haven't done a ton of knitting this year. I think I was looking at my Ravelry. I think I finished 4 projects this year. It's now July, so it's not a lot. It's taking me on average about 2 months to finish anything. I have this top to talk about, a skirt, another t-shirt, and a whip that I just cast on. So you might be able to tell I have a brand new filming location. This is the bedroom of my new apartment. I moved just over a month ago, and then within a week got Ollie. So I've had quite a lot of change happening. That's okay. I'm quite enjoying it, and I got an opportunity to renovate this space before moving in, and I just am really comfortable here. It's very nice. I did design it a bit to look like my last apartment, so if I film in my living room, you are going to see a similar feature wall. But I figured today, let's switch it up. It's later in the evening. I do have some nice light coming in from the bedroom. And right now, I'm sure all my neighbors across the way are watching me talk to myself and film and wondering what the hell I'm doing. I am so hot. It is only 22 degrees, and I don't know why I'm wearing a mohair t-shirt right now, being reminded of why I should not have made myself a mohair t-shirt. But I really wanted to wear something that I've recently finished, and here we are. I might end up changing halfway through because I don't know if I have a whole episode in me wearing this top. Let's start with what I have finished in the last few months. I'm not going to go into all the detail that I usually would because I don't remember a lot of the detail. I didn't really take a lot of notes. My Ravelry is a bit all over the place. I haven't done any finished object photos, so I'll talk through what I remember. And yeah, this is basically just going to be a catch-up episode. I'm super out of practice with filming anything. Hopefully you guys have some patience today, and I will do my best to get back into things and be a bit more organized. Also, I've really been questioning for myself if YouTube is where I should be right now. Do I have anything to really add? There's so many knitters that have started popping up with really great content here on YouTube, and I wonder sometimes if I'm really adding to the conversation, if I have anything new to share. So I'm curious too, if you guys have been here for a while and you enjoy my content, what is it that kind of keeps you coming back? And then maybe I'll lean into that a bit more. I don't see myself filming as much as I used to, but I do want to make sure when I film, I am creating the content that you guys really enjoyed from my channel. And so let me know in the comments what that is, and yeah, what's kind of kept you around. I really appreciate all the people that noticed that I was away. I got a ton of really nice messages on Instagram asking if I was okay, where I was I coming back, and people just saying that they really missed my videos. So that meant the world to me. Thank you for all those very lovely comments. I have seen some people in person here and there for knitting dates, but yeah, I really kind of disconnected from the knitting world. I have absolutely no idea what is happening. I haven't been looking at my Instagram. I went on a yoga retreat in April, so I think I recorded my last video right before that, and I turned off my notifications for that because I really wanted to disconnect. So I asked everybody not to email me. I turned off all my social media notifications, and I really liked how that felt. I liked not seeing every time somebody messaged or liked something on Instagram. So when I got back, I just kind of left all my notifications off and kind of forgot about Instagram for a bit. So if you also notice that I haven't been liking your content, it is just simply because I really haven't been on Instagram. I have no idea what anybody's up to. I don't know any new patterns. I watched a video from Evgenia Nicotina Knits channel the other day, just with a pattern roundup of all the new patterns released in June. So that was really inspiring, saved some new stuff. But for the most part, I have felt very disconnected from what's happening in the knitting world. And so I'm hoping now, with life calming down a bit, that I am going to get back into things. I did turn on my notifications again. I'm trying to kind of find some new pattern inspiration going into fall because I do want to cast on some new stuff. But also I just have a ton of patterns saved from last year. Oh, I feel like this is going to be the moment that Ollie realizes he can try to climb the curtains. He hasn't done that yet, but he just made a pass at them. So I think this is going to be really chaotic. Okay, back to knitting. So let's start with the pattern that I finished the longest ago, which is my skirt number 1 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. I think the last time I talked about this, I was only a couple rows away from binding off and finishing. And I had pretty much run out of yarn. I was waiting on another ball. And then it turned out that all I really needed from that ball was, I think, 3 rows. But it was like that amount where I really couldn't get away with not doing it. So I wish that I had heeded everybody's advice earlier in the project to do the interior of the button band in a different color, because if I'd done that, which I was too lazy to do at the time, I definitely would have had enough yarn to just finish this without spending another, I think, 13 euros on one more ball. Because now I have no idea what I'm going to do with this. I want to say this is 100 grams, but like, how many meters is it? 160 meters for 100 grams. So it's not really going to get me very far with anything else. I am thinking maybe I will buy some more of this to make a matching cardigan number 9. That pattern's been on my list for a while. I do really like the look of it in the tweed, but this is a little bit itchy. So I don't know if I want a whole cardigan in it, but I like the idea of a matching set. So I might do that. This was actually quite hard to find when I did need to locate another ball to make this. So I'm actually not even sure if I can get more of this at this point. But I do have that. If you have any ideas for just under 160 meters, what I can do with a single ball, let me know. This is made in the Sayer Yarn Aran Tweed in the color Confetti, held with just a Drops Kid Silk Mohair in a gray that I had in stash. I definitely am never going to work with the Drops Kid Silk Mohair again. I find it itchy. It wasn't a very pleasant experience, which I'm not sure why, because it has a similar fiber content to other mohairs, but I just don't really enjoy it. And even for the price, I think I'd rather just spend the money and get a nicer quality mohair. So this was a really easy pattern. I think the button band is the most complex part. I don't think I made any modifications on this. Potentially I did a purl round to fold over, which wasn't called for in the pattern, but I'm honestly not sure. I knit it to the pattern length. I didn't get a chance to wear it because I finished it in, when did I finish it? April 18th. It started to warm up It wasn't really cold enough for tights, but not quite warm enough to wear a skirt without, so sounds weird. So yeah, I didn't wear it. I do like the fit. I think it's definitely a pattern that I would make again in the future. I also like this non-curling bind off round that you do at the end. So I always thought it was going to be an I-cord. It's not. So you basically pick up from the round below when you're doing the cast off, and that prevents it from curling up, which it is doing. I think that worked really well. And I think once fall comes, it's a pattern that will get a lot of wear. So me not wearing it right now is no sign of how I'm gonna feel about it later. It's just simply the weather didn't call for it. Wasn't really in a mood to wear skirts, and so I didn't wear it. But I do like it. I really like how this yarn looks worked up. I just wish it was a little bit less itchy. And I think it's also itchy because of the mohair that I paired it with. So I think if I was to make this again in the future, yes, I would hold it with the alpaca that's called for, just to make it a little bit softer. And I prefer alpaca. So that is my favorite things knitwear, skirt number 1. I probably have more to say about it, but I don't remember. The next pattern to talk about is the one that I'm wearing right now, which is the Lane Loop Tee by Other Loops. I also made this in, I think, a size small, yeah, on 4mm needles, and then the edging on 3.5. I knit it up in the onion mohair wool combo, which is the first time I've ever used this brand, first time I've used any sort of mohair wool, basically like mohair spun with wool combo, so that you don't have to hold 2 strands. I was really interested in this yarn, and it was really affordable. I'm like, did I write how much I spent on this? I do want to look it up. So I got 6 balls of this yarn for $6.28 per ball for a total of $45.60. Yeah, $45.60, which basically is less than I would have spent just buying mohair if I was to buy wool and mohair separately. So really good price, and I didn't even use all 6 balls, which is because my gauge was off, because it's always off lately. But I have a whole ball of this left and a little bit. I did not weigh exactly how much I had left in the end, but basically I think I have 1.5 balls. So I used 3.5, 4.5 balls of this, which makes it even cheaper. I would say though, even for this price, I don't know if I would use this yarn again. It is quite scratchy even after blocking. I just don't love the way that it's feeling, and yeah, I can't really explain it. It is 50% mohair, 50% wool, 50 grams for 150 meters. It's not like there's any acrylic in it, but it just doesn't have the nicest feeling. Let's not go into the knitting. Oh, he's so interested in stuff. I remember while I was knitting this, I had so much to say about it. I'm like, oh, okay, I have all the stuff that I want to talk about when I am going through the pattern in detail. And now I remember, hi buddy. And now I remember basically none of it, which is a shame because I definitely had feelings making this. So I'm gonna see if I can bring up the pattern for myself. Yeah, so I remember when I was knitting this, so this has like this double rib purl kind of section on the shoulders, the front, and the back. And the way that this is written is very confusing. So this is not the first time that I've made a Other Loops pattern. It's not the first time that I've been confused about the pattern writing style. So I think it's just the way that she writes that for some reason messes with my brain a little bit. So I had to read this so many times. I looked at a ton of pattern photos to try to figure out, or not pattern photos, project photos, to try to figure out what exactly I was meant to do, because the way she was describing the raglan stitches versus the other ones and the way that she wrote out where markers were placed, yeah, it just really messed with my head. But I did figure it out and got through that section It took me quite a while. I will say I basically took a tip from, oh, okay, no. So I remember a bit of what I was gonna say. You should, with the raglan stitches, place a different stitch marker than what you use for the non-raglan stitches. This way you can kind of tell the points where you need to do increases versus when you're just changing pattern. So I use my triangle stitch markers at specific places, in places where I need to increase, and then regular round stitch markers in places where I didn't. So that helped as a visual cue. When I came up to one of those, I would do an increase before or after. Sometimes I would, as like the sections were getting bigger, especially here. I would have to look ahead to see, am I meant to be doing the stitch or the increase on the front of it or the back of it? So then I would look at what the next stitch marker was. If it was a round one, it meant I need to increase on the right side. If it was a triangle marker, it meant I need to increase on the left side. So just that's a little tip. It doesn't just apply for the t-shirt version of this, also it would apply for the sweater version, which I was actually going to make. That was originally how I came across this t-shirt, is I had the Lane Loop sweater on my pattern list and I had yarn ready for it. I'd actually swatched, but now that I've made this, I think I'm a little bit over it. It's a nice pattern, but I just don't love the way that it's fitting, and I don't know if I really want to make it again. So I'm gonna find a different purpose for that yarn. So yes, mohair sweater or mohair t-shirt in the summer. I have talked before about how when you're knitting spring summer garments, you should use appropriate yarns for those. And I don't know why I went against that advice, and I regret it because I never ever wear this. And by the time it starts to cool down, I probably won't wear it either because I don't like having bare arms when I'm cold. So I'm not sure this really fits my lifestyle. And honestly, the sleeves are kind of an awkward length and there's no decrease rounds on these. So after blocking, kind of triangle out, which I'm not a big fan of. I think I would have had better luck if I'd done some decreases and tried to prevent that triangle shape from happening. Maybe that's a good tip if you make the t-shirt. Maybe just consider exactly how you want it to fit in the end, because this isn't really the look I was going for. I do love the color. I would knit in this color again. But the fit, the yarn choice, also my gauge is super off, so I have so much yarn left because I knit too tight, as I usually do now. I did not take measurements at this point, or at least I did, and I didn't write them down. So I'm not sure how off in gauge I am, but I want to say it's 2 or 3 stitches. It fits okay. I don't hate it, but it's a little bit too short. It is not quite boxy enough. Oh, he really likes this microphone, so sorry if you hear some noises. And I just find too, like this neckline, it's quite thick and uncomfortable for the summer. I prefer a little bit more subtle neckline, but it was an enjoyable project. Like for the most part, I knit this while I was on my retreat. Good kind of engaging project, I guess. I got a lot out of it. It wasn't just super boring stockinette. There was always some amount of rib stitching to be done, also down the side of the body. But it's a little bit of a fail because I just don't wear it. This is the second time that I have this on my body, and I'm only doing it because I'm filming this. Okay, he really likes the mic. Hey, buddy. Hi. Moving on to the third project that I just finished literally yesterday. This is the Sea Salt Tee by Atelier Caston, and this is the same designer that we did the Cognac Cowl with. So very similar construction. Oh, yeah. And I haven't weaved in all my ends, so he's trying to eat them. But it is basically the set-in shoulder detail and then folded trim on body, neckline, arms. I really, really like the way that she writes her patterns. They are really made to fit well. So rather than just, oh, do a bunch of increases, like based on your specific size, different sections of the pattern, you are always doing a slightly different increase round. I really enjoyed the process of making this. It was on 3.5mm needles, so it was a slow going project. I did not mark when I started it, but I think it took me 2 months, so I'm pretty sure I finished this before I cast it on, and I finished this early to mid-May. So I think I cast this on, let's say mid-May, and I just cast it off yesterday. So about 2 months. I knit it up in BC Garn Bio Balance in the color Taupe, which is color 10, and it is this kind of purple grayish color, which isn't exactly what I wanted in the end. This was my first time working with this yarn, and I did enjoy it, but I will say it did have hay or fiber of some kind on it, so every once in a while I would feel kind of a sharp piece coming out of it, and it was just fibers from, I think, the process of spinning it. I don't know enough about that to comment, but just something to be aware of. So this was 50 grams for 225 meters. It's a fingering weight yarn, and it's 55% wool, 45% cotton. I haven't had a chance to wear it yet, but I do think this is going to be a very nice summer piece. I don't think it's going to be too hot. I tried it on right before this, and I'll take proper video once I have woven in all my ends. I do think it fits quite well. I'm a little bit worried about the flaring of these pieces because they are folded over trim. I might need to do another block. And the only thing I'm not a huge fan of, okay buddy, is the neckline. It sits a little bit too low. I do wish maybe I had picked up fewer stitches than the pattern called for, and maybe done even smaller needles, so you do go down a needle size. So I used 3mm needles for the neckline, but it's just, yeah, it's sitting a little bit strange on me, but I don't think it's enough to stop me from wearing it. What are you doing? I really like the length of this. I like the overall fit. It's just boxy. I do think the folded trims are going to drive me a little crazy, but if I can work those out, maybe reblock them, I think it will be okay. For this one, I pretty much ignored her instructions for the folded hems and neckline in that, and I went more with how it's described in Cami number 9 from My Favorite Things Knitwear. So when I was ready to do my first round of trim, so for 2 centimeters I had to do 14 rows. With my first round, with my ChiaoGoo needles, I inserted a thread so that as I was knitting it would insert my lifeline. Then I knit my 7 rounds, but on my 8th round I would do a purl row so that I would easily be able to fold over. In general, just anytime I have to fold my knitting over now, I always do a purl round. 6 more after that, fold it down, and then what happens is when you've added that lifeline, it makes it much easier to tell where you need to connect the first round to the last one. So she never instructed that. I've noticed most patterns don't. Like, just connect to the 14th round from your last row. That doesn't really help me because then you have to keep counting and I would always end up on the wrong road. So I always connect a lifeline. And then she had it that you were, I think, sewing that to the round, the first round. I'm not explaining this very well. So the videos in the pattern basically had you taking your live stitches and then hand sewing it to that first round that you worked. I couldn't be bothered with that, and so I went with how I've done it from other patterns like Cami number 9, which is use my needles to pick up the round from the first round, put it on my needle with the live stitch, knit them together, and then bound off. So that's the way that I went about it for everything. She did differentiate. I think for the sleeves were meant to be a invisible hem versus the bottom hem was meant to be a visible one. I couldn't be bothered. I just really wanted to do it the way that I knew. Don't think from the pattern photos it made a huge difference from what I've seen. I really like the way that this fits, and I will make sure to report back on if I wear it, how I feel about the yarn, so expect that in a future wear test video if I film one. And then just moving into some whips. So I don't have a ton to talk about here. I have one project, which I only just cast on. Knitting with Ollie has been challenging, and even right now he's going after this project. So I'll probably need to go distract him for a second. He loves my knitting, and that has made it really difficult to knit at home. So I found myself escaping and going to cafes to knit there for an hour or two. It's made it very hard to knit home, but I realized yesterday, or no, 2 days ago, if I put on Cat TV on YouTube, which is basically just videos of Bird in like 4K quality, he is mesmerized. So the second I put that on, he basically just goes and stares at the TV until he gets sleepy, and I can knit in peace, at least for a little bit. So yesterday was the first day where I had hours of uninterrupted time to knit. It was lovely, and I made a ton of progress. So I had absolutely no yarn because I haven't bought anything lately, and don't really have a lot of yarn in stash at the moment. So I went for a walk on Friday. I had the day off, and I decided to go to Stephen and Penelope, which is actually like a 10-minute walk from my house. It's perfect because it's also across from Hooks and Yarn, which is the other really good yarn store here. And I just went in to see, okay, what do they have? Maybe I'll get inspired by something. Speaking of Cat TV, I've now put it on, and hopefully he's gonna leave me alone. Okay, so I went to Stephen and Penelope, which is nearby now, just to see if I could find some yarn to be inspired by that wouldn't cost a lot of money, because I knew I wanted to make a summer knit. I had some leftover yarn from a project that didn't work out last year, so I had an idea of maybe a tank top that I could cast on, but I wasn't really feeling super excited about it. So went into Stephen and Penelope and ended up coming across this onion yarn, which is organic cotton. It's 100% organic cotton, 50 grams for 155 meters, and it's in this beautiful dark chocolatey brown. And I figured, okay, that is a great yarn for a summer project. Before I go ahead and just start casting on projects for cold winter or for cold weather knits, I'm gonna give a summer knit a final go. And if you've been here for a while, you know last summer I did cast on for the freestyle shirt by Paula Strict or Suzanne Muller, and I ended up buying the wrong weight of the yarn that it called for. So it was meant to be Kremka Soul Wool Morning Salutation Vino something, and I accidentally bought the DK weight version versus the sport weight. So I got basically to the end of my 6 balls and the body wasn't even done. Realized I bought the wrong yarn. Didn't really feel like buying more. Also the sizing was really off, so I frogged it and put it aside. And that pattern has remained in the back of my mind as something I want to make, but I didn't have any yarn for it. So I realized that this yarn would be perfect for that pattern, and I still wanted to make it. So for $5.50 per ball, so 33 euros for the whole project, I have now cast on the freestyle shirt again, and I am just working my way through the raglan increases. And I really like that in this pattern the raglan increase is a purl stitch, so you just get this really interesting look. I remember the last time I knit this, I did have some challenges. The way it's written is a little bit confusing. So when you're making it, read through the whole pattern first. I wish that I had put my lifeline in with my ChiaoGoo needles like I did on the other project, but I caught that after I had finished that round, so I could have knitted in, but I ended up having to insert it after the fact, so that took a little bit longer. And in general, the way that the German short rows are written here is a little bit confusing. So personally, I prefer when German short rows are written with the least amount of extra filler copy as possible. In her case, it's a little bit hard because sometimes you are doing different numbers of stitches after the last double stitch, so the turning round. But in general, I just find the way that she writes her German short rows way too wordy, way more than they need to be. So I would prefer if it just said, you know, work to the next marker, do an increase. You know your raglan increase or your raglan stitch is always a purl, so just you don't need to say that every time. And then do X number of stitches after your DS. She writes basically like knit X number of stitches. So every single German short row is written in detail. So then that always makes me feel like, oh, maybe I'm missing something and I need to read this really, really carefully, or I'm gonna miss a step. But no, for the most part, other than I think the first two and the last row, they're all the same. So it's a lot of filler copy that's not needed. So that's confusing. I found that confusing last time. At least I knew to look for it this time. And then I remember the last time I knit it, on the last German short row round, missed the fact that you're supposed to work the double stitch and then knit to the next double stitch, work that, and then break your yarn, and then basically find a new spot where you join in the round. So this time I remember that. I'm like, okay, I definitely messed something up here. I need to be careful. Did that, and then you slip some stitches and you join your yarn again. But that part is confusing, so make sure on the last German short row, you really read those instructions carefully. I also realized on this, so I knit for like a whole Friday evening, got through basically all the German short row rounds, and then the next day went to pick this up to do the last three and realized I had twisted my project. But because it was right at the spot where basically I was working my first stitch on the last row, I could just fudge it by twisting, like turning the project. Didn't bother to fix it. I'm like, I'm not gonna rip this all out and start over. I'm just going to fix it later when I pick up the stitches for the collar. So I don't think you can tell. Yeah, there's like a slight gap there. I don't think it's that noticeable. So didn't fix it and I don't care. I really like the way that this color is shaping up. I checked my gauge yesterday and I seem to be on for this project. I didn't bother gauge swatching because why bother? My gauge is always off anyway. And I'm kind of blowing through this, I think, because I finally have a moment to really get back into knitting. It's something new. I'm excited to work on it. So I feel like my knitting mojo's coming back. I'm getting into that headspace and I'm just genuinely excited for this. So this is my only work in progress right now. I'm also reminded that I really hate working with natural fiber yarns sometimes because I find they always unravel on themselves and then get tangled. So I already had one knot that I couldn't get out of this and I ended up having to break my yarn. It is making for very, very nice stitch definition. So that is the freestyle shirt. I'm making it in a size small. I do think it's going to go pretty quickly for me. And then the final thing that I want to talk about today is just the yarn that I mentioned that I originally planned to use for the freestyle shirt last year. So this is the Kremke Soul Wool Morning Salutation in the color olive green. I don't remember what number it is. So I was going through all the patterns that call for DK weight yarn, basically just looking at anything that typically uses Sadness Garn Line yarn because this is the exact same meterage. And I think I've decided to knit the Vegas top by Suzanne Muller. So keeping it within the same designer. I do really like her stuff. And I only have 6 balls of this, so that pretty much ruled out most t-shirts. And honestly, I don't know if I want a t-shirt in this color at this point. So I'll probably have a bit of yarn left over if I just make a tank top, but I am feeling like I could use a few more tank tops, and the ones I have are getting quite a lot of wear. I was also thinking to make another Sabai top, also by Suzanne Muller, but I much prefer like the I-cord version of that I have already However, the neckline does curl, which is the only downside of that pattern. So I figured I would make something that is more round crew neck, and this seemed like a good option. So I think when I'm done the freestyle shirt, I'm gonna go ahead and cast that on, or maybe I'll do it at the same time. And then honestly, I think I'm gonna be done with warm weather knitting. Maybe I'll throw in another top. I do have some pure silk left over from my Milady's dress. And I came across, when I was doing a little bit of pattern searching for what has recently come out, I saw the Cami number 10 from My Favorite Things Knitwear, which is very similar to the Sabai top, but a different weight of yarn. And I think I might have enough knitting for all of pure silk to be able to hold that double and finish that top. So I have like 2.86 balls, which the pattern calls for more than that, but I assume because you're holding it double, you would still have quite a bit left over. So maybe I'll start that and then just see how far I get and cast off early if I need. So that's also something I'm thinking about. So yeah, other than that, I really don't have tons of knitting plans. I would like to cast on a cardigan. I'm thinking maybe the Paul cardigan by Mareka Knit, but I don't have yarn for it, and I'm really trying to only buy yarn when I'm confident that I have a plan. So we'll see. I'm just gonna wait for inspiration to strike. If you have new patterns that you think I would like that have come out recently that you're like, you need to know about this, just drop it in the comments. I would love to see what everybody's being inspired by right now and get some new pattern inspiration. I feel, like I said, very out of the loop at the moment. I don't know anything happening, and maybe seeing new stuff to get excited about will help. So we're gonna end it there. Ollie and I need to go hang out. I need to play with him. I think he's getting a little bit annoyed with me, and he's been a little bit sick. We actually ended up at the emergency vet on Saturday because he started peeing outside of his litter box and seemed to be in pain. So he's okay. He just has a bit of a urinary infection right now. He needs some playtime, and I love him. I just want to spend time with him. So thanks for watching today. It's nice to be back, and Ollie and I will see you in the next video.